You know, you talked about the fact that Black Lives Matter doesn't seem to care much about Mr. Dorn, who was really murdered in cold blood, a wonderful man by all accounts, and others, by the way, white, black, interracial. You've got going on in our cities today, particularly when you look at cities like Chicago, absolute slaughter taking place. The number of people who are shot, you had a one weekend not long ago where over 100 people were shot, 15 people killed, 5 of which were little kids, one of which was a 3-year-old. I don't hear a thing. By the way, I don't hear a thing other than a passing reference by the mainstream media. Oh, look, isn't this horrible? Now back at Trump. Or Black Lives Matter. I don't hear people marching about this. I don't even see Sharpton marching about this. I mean, when you look at that little 3-year-old kid who is sitting in the car, or that 13-year-old girl who was sitting watching TV, a bullet went through her neck. Kids, boys who are out behaving, having a good time. Somebody walks up and murders them, and it's like nobody knows their name. It just moves on, and that's the end of it, and let's get back to the cops. I don't understand the mindset of these organizations. Shouldn't you be in these neighborhoods marching for protection?
I'll tell you, you hit it right on the head. Here's the problem. This is why Black Lives Matter, it's basically, in my opinion, the Al Sharpton of the 21st century. They're profiteers. They are profiting on trying to give a narrative, a false narrative, that is white racist cops that's destroying the black community. You point out Chicago. No Black Lives presence walking through the neighborhood protesting to stop black-on-black crime. Al Sharpton goes to the George Floyd funeral, used a funeral to launch a campaign speech attacking Donald Trump. I don't see Al Sharpton in Chicago, that 3-year-old kid who was killed. You know why? Because it's not profitable. There's no money to be made. I have the credibility. Attack me. As a civil rights attorney, I know there may be 1 or 2% of bad cops, but 98%, they're great. And when you talk about Chicago, you talk about Atlanta, you talk about Washington, D.C. and L.A., this big lie, Mark, of systemic discrimination. How can you have systemic discrimination in Chicago when the leadership is minority? I know what systemic discrimination is. It does not exist. But yet, this is the narrative that the Black Lives leadership portrays, the Democratic leadership, systemic discrimination. It doesn't exist. They don't know what they're talking about. This is not 1960. We don't have Bull Connor and the German Shepherds. This is 2020. African American, on your show. It's not like it was 50 years ago. But Black Lives Matter and the Democratic leadership wants you to think it's 1960. Well, I'm sick of that narrative.